Hey Limitless Nation, today you're in for a real treat. Today you get to learn directly from Bob Pike. Bob Pike is a husband, a sales trainer, author, pastor, retired Navy officer, and professional speaker. Bob is the author of over 30 books, and in 1999 Bob was inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame. Bob's clients include IBM China, Saudia Airlines, the Defense Security Agency of the U.S., and many others. Bob has worked all over the world speaking and training and teaching people. When not traveling, Bob enjoys spending time with his 12 children and 31 grandchildren. His personal mission is to help people unlock learning and unleash performance. In today's masterclass, you're going to learn directly from the one and only Bob Pike. Let's dive into it.
Well, before you dive into today's masterclass session, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. It allows you to receive notification about every single time we have uploaded a new video and showing you how to live a limitless life. Now, if you want to dig deeper on what you need to do to hunt your future, make sure you watch the interview that I've done with Donna Vaughn at huntyourfuture.com. It will show you how you can hunt your future on every aspect of your being. Plus, you're going to receive tips and secrets on what you need to do to tackle your days on a regular basis. Now, let's dive into today's masterclass sessions.
Hey, welcome, Bob Pike.
Glad to be here, Donovan.
Hey, and we're absolutely thrilled to have you here with us. Now, Bob, is there anything that we did not mention in the bio that you'd like to share with the Limitless Nation?
Well, you know, the bio is all about what I've done in terms of business. So I would say something personally, two things. Number one, that I actually started my career first as a carpenter, then as a pastor. I am not Jesus, by the way, but that's how I started my career. And the other thing is that my wife and I have a blended family of 12 children, and we now have 33 grandchildren and our first great-grandchild. And so those would be the two pieces that I would add.
Wow, that's exciting. That's a big family too.
It is.
Wow. Now, Bob, here at the Limitless Nation, we have a tradition of starting each and every single interview with a limitless quote. Do you have such a quote or a mantra or even affirmation that you have embedded into your life?
Well, I can actually think of about three off the top of my head. One, I learned early as a student at Moody, and Jim Elliott, who was martyred by the Auca Indians, said, he is no fool who gives up that which he can never keep to gain that which he can never lose. And I always thought that that was really powerful, that we need to live not just for the here and now, but for the then and there. And so that'd be one quote. The other is by C.S. Lewis, who said that, now he said, a man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with an argument. And today we would say a person with an experience is never at the mercy of a person with an argument. And I think that especially today, we have way too many people who have these opinions based on nothing. And my experience teaches me a lot, and I want to take advantage of that experience and learn from my own experience.
Wow, that is profound, because you're basically saying, to paraphrase it a little bit, the person who's already run a marathon is much better than the person who is speculating about how good or bad a marathon is.
Yep. A friend of mine, Charlie Jones, was a motivational speaker for years, and he said, you know, if you want to be a baker, you talk to somebody who's been a baker. The butcher, candlestick maker can't tell you much about what it's going to take to be an Indian chief. You know, you talk to people that have done what you want to do and who have gone where you want to go. And I think that's sound advice for anybody.
I completely agree with that. Now, Bob, in your extensive journey, what would you say is one of the biggest challenges or setbacks or even failures that you've had to overcome to get to where you are now?
Well, I was almost out of business before I ever got in business. And you and I talked a little bit off camera about the fact that this is now 50 years that I've been a full-time training and performance improvement professional. But I got into it because I was a pastor making $60 a month, and I was going deeper and deeper in debt. And a friend of mine said, hey, here are people, they're selling sales training and management development programs, and you know, you could make a lot of money, solve your problems. And I thought, great, that's for me. And everybody always tells you sales is where you can make as much as you want. They also don't tell you can also make as little as you want, especially if you're on commission. And what I discovered is that as a pastor, you're giving everything away. And as a salesman or salesperson, you're presenting something, and then if people feel it has value, they have to exchange money for. And I discovered that I had this tremendous fear of rejection. And so I would go and I would make a great presentation and they'd say, I want to think about it. And I let them think about it. They'd have some other objection and I would just kind of cave in. And even though I'd been taught differently, I was so afraid of rejection. Matter of fact, I would get all kinds of appointments and then I'd cancel them because if they didn't see me, they couldn't reject me. So as a result, 6 months in, I've made $150. So that's less than I was making as a pastor. And I said, I have to change. And so one of the books that I had studied, and actually we had a record on it, and because in those days, so this is even pre-cassette tapes, we were selling motivational records. And one of them was by Maxwell Maltz. And actually the book you showed me earlier, we also had Claude Bristol's The Magic of Believing. But in Maltz's book, he said that it took 21 days to change one attitude or habit of thought with another. I thought as negative as I've been, I better give it a little extra. So I did what I call the 3 V's, verbalize, visualize, vitalize. So verbalize, I used affirmations because I had a lot of negative self-talk, if you will. And so I'll enter every situation without giving mental recognition of the possibility of defeat or failure. I'll do it now. What's behind the door, I know not, but this I know and I know it well. The more I knock, the more I sell. And I would just say those affirmations over and over and over again. And then, so that's verbalize. Visualize, I mentally rehearsed every presentation. And then vitalize, I said, okay, I'm going to make 12 presentations a week. And on at least 8 of those, I'm going to force myself, even though it doesn't feel like my style, I'm going to force myself to do what the company says works. And that's close 5 times. So in that 30 days, I made a little over $1,100 in commissions. Within a year, I was making over $8,000 a month in commission. And I got to tell you, in 1969, $8,000 was a lot of money. And I went from being 400 out of 400 salespeople to being number 1. And that was kind of the stepping stone where a few years later, I started my own business because I said, well, you know, I've spent 10 years now with 2 different companies building their businesses. And now it's time to start my own. And so over a period of 30 years, I built a multi-million-dollar training and performance company. But it was by overcoming those challenges. And it was basically how I thought. And I've said to people over and over again that if you took away everything, but I still have my knowledge, my skills, and my attitude, I can have it all back because it's all in here.
That's absolutely right. Very similar to what I read, I think yesterday, that if you take, and I'm paraphrasing, if you take all of the money out of all the rich people and spread it evenly across the entire world for people, eventually it's going to end up back into the very hands that it was taken out of.
Well, I would say all of the rich people who made their own money. If you took it away from the people that just inherited and are living off somebody else's work, I don't think they'd ever get it back. But you take somebody that built it with their own hands, they can build it again.
Exactly. And that's just part of the continual process of moving forward. And speaking
Absolutely.
of moving forward and building with your own hands, Bob, what are you working on right now?
Well, hope you enjoyed the masterclass session so far. Before we get into the second half of the session itself, it is very crucial for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, as I really don't want you to miss out on another masterclass where I'm going to share with you what other expert celebrities, Fortune 5000 companies do to become successful and live a limitless life. So make sure you subscribe right now, and every single time we upload a new video, you will receive a notification bell. This allows you to enjoy the masterclass on the regular basis. So make sure you subscribe right now. Well, as you are ready, let's get into the second half of the masterclass session.
What I'm really working on is I've got this huge collected body of work over the last 50 years where I've designed over 600 training programs for corporate clients, and a lot of that intellectual property is still mine. I've written 33 books, and so the IP in that is mine. Every month since 1987, I've written a 10 to 16 page newsletter for training and performance professionals, and so I've got that content. So today what I'm working on is how do I repurpose that content so that it's available more passively. I still travel a lot. I still speak at a lot of conferences and those kinds of things, but how can I multiply myself? I sold my major consulting business a few years ago, but I didn't do it to retire. So now I have my own little boutique thing that I'm working on and looking at what are the new books that I want to create, what are the new training programs that I want to doing it either online or using webinars or creating evergreen webinars and those kinds of things. So it keeps me busy.
Wow, it seems like you got an awful lot going on. Now, can you tell us where the Limitless Nation can go to learn more about your business and what you do and just keep up with that?
Okay, well, I've got a little foundational book called Unlock Learning and Unleash Performance, because what I discovered is that all of us have been told to learn, but we've never been taught to learn. And if we understand how our brain actually learns, acquires information, memorizes, locks in information, it really kind of accelerates our learning. So I wrote this book called Unlock Learning, Unleash Performance, and it contains a lot of my core concepts. And so if anybody would just send me an email to book@cttnewsletters.com and in the subject line put Limitless Nation offer, the free ebook version at absolutely no charge, and it'll give you a lot more of the kind of content that we're talking about in this interview. Be happy to do that.
Okay, so that's send the email to, what was the email address again?
book@cttnewsletters.com.
CTT?
Yep, CTT. So it stands for Creative Training Techniques. So cttnewsletters.com.
Okay, send it there and then put in the subject line Limitless Nation offer, and then you get a free copy of one of your books.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Now, Bob, if we take a step back, and I think we talked about this just briefly when we talked about this prior to the interview, but what was one of the things that was really holding you back from being limitless?
Well, I think it goes back to that whole idea of being a people pleaser. So I was always trying to figure out what will make people like me. And what I discovered is that if you're going to spend your life trying to please other people, you're going to be a wreck, because you do this and it pleases that person and this other person is angry. And so actually I came to the conclusion that it is that I have an audience of one, and that's my Heavenly Father. So at the end of the day, what I have to ask is, did how I act, how I dealt with other people today honor my Father? And so there have been times, because we have a blended family of 12, that my children would want me to do something that my wife wouldn't. And so it's like, okay, do I please my wife? Do I please my children? And it's like, okay, wrong question. The question is, what decision can I make that in my heart of hearts, I say, okay, God, I've honored you. My children are angry with me. My wife is angry. But God, in my heart of hearts, I know that I have honored you with this decision. And so for me, just having that foundational principle that I have an audience of one, and it's the Heavenly Father that I need to please, has really gotten rid of a lot of the chains that were holding me back, because I just get stuck.
Right, and that's quite a bit, almost a lot of, I'm trying to think of the word, it's freeing. It is very freeing to understand that you really don't have to be on show for the entire world. It's only between you and God that you are responsible for.
Absolutely.
Now, Bob, in your journey so far, what is one of the best pieces of advice that you were given that you can pass on to the Limitless Nation?
Well, I'll tell you, the best piece of advice I was ever given was live beneath your means. What I mean by that is next time you get a raise, act as if you don't have it. Start putting aside so that I think of saving as well as spending. And then when I've saved, I think of investing. What can I do to get money working for me instead of me working for it? And I think that there are way too many people, they're caught up in this consumer world. If you want it right now, buy it right now. And my grandmother came from Germany in 1911 and, basically spoke no English, and yet she lived to 97 or 93 on what she earned, and she never made more than $6,000 a year of her life. But she saved 10% of everything she ever earned, and she just put it in a savings bank. She didn't even know how to invest. And she said, Rusty, that was her nickname for me, buy quality because it'll be cheaper. And she'd buy something and she'd have it for 20 years. And you amortize anything you buy over 20 years. Most of us, we buy something and, our cell phones. It's like, ooh, got to have the newest one. And instead of saying, I'm going to be patient. And so I'm a big believer that God gets the first and savings gets the second, and then I live on the rest. And if I do that, and it's amazing. And I would say this, especially if you're younger, you would be amazed at what that'll do for you if you start saving 10% of everything you make, and you're and you're now 20 years old. I mean, by the time you're 50, you could retire and you won't be able to spend everything that you've saved in that time and had growing for.
Wow, that's definitely a nugget of wisdom right there. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Bob, in your, like as you said previously, you're an author of over 30 books. That is an amazing accomplishment in and of itself. Now, can you share with the Limitless Nation what habits have you instilled into your life to help you get to this level of success?
Well, I think that the first thing and the most obvious thing is that we have to set goals. But a goal without a written plan is just a pipe dream. And so that was something that was instilled in me very early in my career. And I'm sure that almost everybody that's watching this knows about SMART goals, that a SMART goal is specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, and it has a time limit to it. And so part of it was progress, not perfection. So for example, I have a tendency to go to bed early. I wake up at 2 in the morning, I'll write for a couple of hours. And so just having that daily habit that every day I'm going to write for 2 hours. And what I also did is I started with a mind map. And so learning about mind mapping is something that was very important. So it gave me a way of capturing what are all of the things that could go into this book in a very organic and visual way that outlining couldn't do. And that actually cut my writing time by 50%. And I use that for everything. I can write a $2 million proposal in less than 3 hours using a mind map. And so I think those two things, setting goals, following through, and then using tools that help you to be more effective like mind map.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Bob, in a hypothetical world, if all of the books in the world that you had right now just disappeared and all you had in your bank account was enough money to buy one book. It could be any book, but it was only one book. What one book would you pick that made the biggest difference in your life?
Well, thankfully, because I wrote all of my books and no ghostwriter was part of it, I would still have the content of all of my books because they're part of me. So I wouldn't need to worry about buying a copy of one of my own books. And so I would have to say that if I could only have one book, it'd be the Bible, because I think that the Bible gives you all of the keys to success. It gives you the keys for living a successful life. It gives you an understanding of what life is all about. And you and I talked earlier about Proverbs a little bit. And one of the first habits that I developed is that for a year, I read 5 Psalms and 1 Proverb every day. And so I was reading all of Psalms and all of Proverbs once a month. And I did that for a year. And every time I came across a proverb where I said, oh, that really speaks to me, I underlined it. And at the end of the year, you would be amazed at how many proverbs that I underlined. And there's just wisdom to be followed.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Now, Bob, obviously you have made a big impact on the world around you. We mentioned earlier that you're an international speaker and an amazing author. You've got so much going on. But if you had to take a step back and go back in time to a younger version of you, is there anything with what you know now and all of this experience, what would you say to your younger version of yourself that you may not have known then?
Well, I would take a quote from Ronald Reagan, who said, trust but verify, because there have been 3 times in my adult life where I have trusted people in business and virtually lost everything and had to start over, or was close to losing everything and had to start over. And basically these were people that I trusted, and they took advantage of that trust. And part of it was that I didn't verify. I didn't check because, I put my trust in you and I just need to believe that you'll do that you'll follow through. And they didn't. And so I would say Ronald Reagan's quote, trust but verify. I trust you, but it's my responsibility to make sure that you really are living up to your commitments.
Right. It's almost the equivalent. If you're going to take a bungee jump, I do not recommend doing that. But if you're going to jump up across a bridge or whatever, I would make sure that I knew how to check that bungee strap to make sure that there's no tears in it.
Absolutely.
Some things that some people do are just, it's amazing what the human mind and body and spirit can accomplish in today's world. Now,
I think I would let other things challenge me than bungee jumping as well.
Now, Bob, do you have a website that we can go to learn more about you and your business and just to connect with you?
Easiest thing is to go to www.bobpike.com. www.cttnewsletters.com. And that's the website that I use for my Training and Performance Forum, which is the newsletter that I've been writing since 1987. And so that's really my primary website.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And thank you very much for your time, Bob.
It's been a pleasure, Donovan, and God bless you.
Absolutely. I'm sure that the Limitless Nation has been inspired by your story. I know that my mind has been absolutely stretched by everything that you have had to say. It's amazing to get to connect with individuals like yourself. And until next time, this is Donovan saying, stay limitless.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap. Please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the word subscribe. And if you want to go deeper on learning on what you need to do to hunt your future, make sure you watch the interview that I've done with Donovan on what you need to do to hunt your future on every aspect of your being. This allows you to live a limitless life on every aspect of your life starting from today's forward. Plus, you are going to receive tips and tricks on what you need to do to tackle your day, tackle your challenges on every situation, every single time. So go ahead and download it right now, and until then, stay limitless forever.